Welcome back to Open Line. Thank you for being with us. I'm here with Michelle Johnson, the Executive Director of Tennessee Justice Center. We are talking about all things medical today, whether it be the TennCare Block Grant. We're talking about medical debt, how to survive it, how to get through it, what are your best options. We have Taylor on the phone. Taylor, you're our first call tonight, so thank you for joining in. What's your comment or question?
Is this for me?
It is you. Go ahead, please.
Well, thank you, ladies. Thanks for the show, and thanks for your expertise on this subject. This subject follows several others in our good state. I am a conservative Republican, but I'm no tightwad when it comes to paying the taxes or paying for what we need in this state. I think the prison situation is disgraceful over not being able to get the help or pay there. I think this teacher situation is unfair far too many places, and the health care is number one on the spot right now. But let me say this, and I've said it for years. This state has the absolute least consumer protection in every area of any state in the nation. We have the only state attorney general that is selected the way ours is. He or she is selected by the Tennessee Supreme Court. Most other states have an attorney general that is elected by the people and represents them much more evenly than what takes place in our state. My point is, not only in this medical situation, but in so many others, as far as these boards that allow contractors to mess people over on construction projects, and there's just numerous ones. But we have got to get these legislators and governor candidates to promise to do more to protect the honest, hardworking Tennesseans that are trying to make this state their home for themselves and their children. That's my point. Thank you very much.
Taylor, thank you for calling in very much. Any reaction?
Well, I think one thing he points out is our legislators don't seem to be working for us, and that's a real problem because in 6th grade civics you learn,
right.
They're going to come here, they're going to have all these facts, and they're going to make the best choices. And the fact is, my clients don't have lobbyists in the legislature, and folks with special interests often do. Our legislators get health coverage for themselves and their families. Many of them will have it for life for a part-time seasonal job, and I don't begrudge them that, but I think that we should make sure that if we have federal funds to provide health insurance to home health aides and construction workers and waitresses, it seems a shame that they put politics and their primary, contest ahead of these people and 300,000 people who really need health coverage. So I agree. We have to somehow get our elected officials to get back to serving us and to maybe give us a little bit of what they have and what we as taxpayers pay for them to have.
Sure. Okay, let's go to Kevin now. Kevin, thank you for your call. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Kevin Donaldson. How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Yeah. When I go to the doctor and stuff, I pay medical bills and stuff. And I don't got no money to pay my medical bills off.
Right. Are you looking for resources to help you with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to hang up. I want you to listen to the TV, and hopefully we can get you tuned in with something, okay? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for calling, Kevin. Kevin's in a boat with a lot of people.
Lots of people in our state are uninsured, and we grew the number of uninsured people in our state. We're number 3 in the nation at the growth of uninsured people this year. Number 1 in the nation at the growth of uninsured children. And so the question is Kevin eligible for Medicaid? People think, well, if you don't have money, even if you're working jobs, if you don't have health insurance, you don't have money, you can sign up for Medicaid. Well, unless he's a parent, or he's a child, or he's pregnant, you know, and you have to be a parent who has custody of a child who's 18 or below. Or a senior, then he's kind of out of luck. He's kind of out of luck unless he makes over $12,000 a year. If he makes over $12,000 a year, he should sign up on the marketplace, the Affordable Care Act. The open enrollment period has already closed, but if he lost his job or he had coverage and he got a divorce or something happened that would enable
life change event.
Special enrollment period, he could maybe get coverage through that. But even though it feels like health insurance is expensive on the marketplace, and it is expensive, it's cheaper to have health insurance than to not if he's going to need to go to the doctor. There are free clinics, free and low cost clinics around the city, and neighborhood health, Siloam. There are free clinics around the city that provide care to as many as they can afford to provide care to. But
what were those two names again?
Well, Siloam Clinic, and then Neighborhood Health. Matthew Walker, there are clinics around the city that provide care, and oftentimes that's for primary care. If you need specialty care, it's a little bit more challenging. But the fact is, it's not a system. It's not a healthcare system.
Right.
And we as Americans pay twice any industrialized nation for our health care, and we still have lots of people like him that are just locked out, and we can do better.
And we have this big gap of people in Tennessee, we've reported on it so often, who don't qualify for the Affordable Care Act, can't be on Medicaid,
right.
And they're just kind of sitting there.
They're sitting there, and the federal government has our money, our taxpayer money is sitting in Washington. Most every other state in the nation has brought that money back for their citizens so that people like him will be covered. This 300,000 people will be covered. It's about $1.4 billion. If our legislature said today we're going to focus on this, 300,000 people will be covered. And when you look at states like Idaho and Kansas, now even Missouri, we're one of only a handful of states that are left not expanding. And when you ask the legislators, why are you against this, they say, we don't like the president, President Obama. They don't like it. It's like, that's fine. Like all these other Republican governors, they didn't like the president either, but they figured out a way to like their citizens more. And that's really, we just have to focus on the most logical solutions that are right in front of us for citizens like that.
What was Medicaid expansion? What was our opportunity? How would it have worked, dollars and cents?
Well, it still can work this way. Basically, the federal government was going to pay 100% for a number of years, and then it starts to go down in terms of how much
100% for the
100% for 300,000 people to have health and coverage. So they would pay everything for those 300,000 people. It would go down slightly year after year, and it would end after many years at 90%. They would still cover 90%. The Hospital Association said they would step in and cover anything as we were weaned off to 90% of the federal funds. And the hospital associations basically said this would be essentially free to our state. In fact, we would have net saved hundreds of millions of dollars every year and covered 300,000 people. There's no logical policy reason to not do that. And meanwhile, we're #1 in the nation at hospital closures. There's a whole swath of West Tennessee and East Tennessee where if you have a heart attack or you have a teenager who has a car accident, you just won't be able to get to the next hospital. And that is a direct result of our legislature's refusal to expand in the way that Governor Haslam proposed. Governor Lee has said he's not interested in doing it. He hasn't really given any sort of logical reason, but it's really harming citizens, and it's these nurses and doctors in these rural hospitals that are closing one after another. There's a domino effect. It's really gutting our rural, the rural parts of our state, because they're the largest employers, and there's people who've been there for generations. And
you think about it too, and it's sadly ironic, but when these hospitals close, the people who have been involved in healthcare all their life are now out of a job.
And they're in the gap.
And they're in the gap.
Yeah, and they basically are without coverage. So it's really heartbreaking, and it would be understandable if we couldn't afford it. But the money is sitting in Washington, and almost every other governor has said, we're going to do this. We're going to do this because it's right and because it's financially feasible. And we think that our waitresses and hotel maids and construction workers deserve better. We haven't been able to find the political will.
And the 300,000 is the people in the gap, right? Like
That's those
Kevin
people in the
called it.
gap. Yeah, they're the working poor.
Yeah. You mentioned before that half of the children in this state are on Medicaid. We also talked about how they cleaned the rolls recently, and it seems as though it was very haphazardly done.
It was not done in a way that was intended to make sure that kids who are eligible kept their coverage.
How does a kid eligible? How does a child become eligible?
Well, they have to have fairly low income, and so, you know, our state is a fairly poor state, so they have to show how much money their family makes, and then they have to verify that on an annual basis, how much money a family makes. When 200,000 children lost coverage, the governor said, well, the economy's improved. And in fact, in parts of the state, the economy has improved. But when you looked at those 200,000 children who lost coverage, they lost coverage in counties like Grundy County, Scott County, where the economies haven't improved. And what we know now from the Public Records Act request is that it didn't have anything to do about families prospering and had to do with red tape hurricanes crushing the future of these kids. And we, you know, again, we're playing politics with that. We have to figure out a way that our elected officials say, if 200,000 children were hurt by something that we did and that we can fix, like, we want to figure it out and we want to solve it. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that get the attention that it needs. Instead, we're focusing now on a whole new fancy block grant to be leading the nation on the race to the bottom. And that, in terms of where we are on that, I feel like you asked me this and I didn't say, but basically, the state has submitted their plan to the federal government. We expect the federal government will get back to the state with a yes or a no, and then if they say yes, it goes back to the legislature. The legislature has already said they want to do it. They think it polls well for them. In fact, it will be less money on health care from the federal government, and as a state that doesn't have an income tax, we don't know where the money will come from.
How much money has been asked for? What is in the proposal? What is the equation here?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the state has said, Governor Lee has said, we want to basically take about $1 billion out of our current system, our current Medicaid system, and we want the federal government to be able to keep $1 billion, because we know that we can take that money, we can spend it better. $1 billion out of 12-ish billion. I mean, it feels like the numbers are a little bit like monopoly money,
Sure.
but the truth is, there is no question that right now it's a very skimpy program. It's a program that is not overly generous. Many states have higher income. You know, we don't have any expansion population. If you don't have children, or if your child becomes 18 and you have cancer, you lose your coverage. Or if your spouse gets full custody of your child, you lose coverage. So many states have broader eligibility. We don't have that, and so the question just is, where are they going to get the $1 billion? It's not like, right. You know, I mean, yeah. And then the governor said he wants to have complete say in what is health related. He will spend the money how he wants to spend the money, and in his unique discretion, he'll be able to say what is health related. Right now,
as in different services, as in
air conditioning units. I mean, obviously he's an HVAC guy. I don't know, but the fact is, Congress said that Medicaid that this money is set aside by taxpayers, and our Medicaid program is paid for by, you know, taxpayers in New York and Ohio and Pennsylvania. Like, we are subsidized by other states, and so he's saying, give me that money and let me spend it how I want to. Well, Congress said the money's to be spent on our children and our seniors and our core Medicaid population. So that even if there's somebody, a bureaucrat within federal government says, I'd love for you to do that, it's illegal, because it's an act of Congress. They can't change that.
So much to weed through, and I know that you have been just really in the thick of it. I just want to get back to one question I had that we didn't get to, was for the children who've maybe been kicked off these rolls, their parents who are in limbo, what course of action do they have?
Absolutely call the Tennessee Justice Center, because we can usually get them back on quickly, and we can get their coverage backdated to the date that they need. Particularly, also, there's another issue with pregnant women. If you're pregnant and you can't get your coverage quickly, call the Tennessee Justice Center, and we can put the number down.
Yes, we will.
There's a lot of red tape right now, and I don't know if it has to do with not choosing vendors properly, or just not having the attention span to focus on these issues, which are complicated, but kids' lives are at risk and their futures at risk, so we need them to solve them.
And again, on the other end is the whole debt issue and that hamster wheel that keeps going around for these families. How are you able to do it quickly? Good contacts. Well, you said that we were able to get you back in the system
Well,
usually
because
quickly.
it's completely illegal. It's completely illegal that they've cut these kids off. Often we can find that they didn't get the notice, that their vendor messed up, sent it to the wrong address, and so we do it quickly because we know
we know
the people who can say, oh yeah, we did mess up, and we want to make sure that this kid is safe and back on. And obviously the people at 10 Care want it to work. It's complicated, and maybe they have vendors that weren't quite doing what they need to do. But as soon as it is brought to their attention, they try to fix it.
Good. Okay, we're going to get that number made up. So if you need to get the number, go get a pen and paper. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with it. Stay with us.